Yeah, I just sent them an email and I sent them a chat inbox, but I don't know what's going on. I don't hear anything. Can you hear anything?
Right. This is the second interpreter. I cannot hear any of the audio. I'll go ahead and email Pilar.
Okay.
Let's mute ourselves for now, and we'll coordinate. Go ahead and mute yourself.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good morning, everyone. Before the meeting begins, we allowed our interpreter, Andres, to introduce herself.
Okay. My name is Marie Hernandez. I'm one of the interpreters.
Welcome to the July 18, 2023 hashtag.
Bienvenidos al el meeting del 18 de julio del 2023 de hasta.
Good morning, everyone. This is Andrés Márquez. We'll be your interpreters today. Para todos aquellos que les gustaría interpretación en español simultánea, hay audífonos. Para todos aquellos que les gustaría usar el simultáneo en Zoom, puede acudir a la parte inferior de la pantalla, donde escogerá la interpretación y podrá escoger su idioma. Muchas gracias y bienvenidos. Thank you.
Ready. Welcome to the July 18, 2023 hashtag meeting. My name is Alex Warner, and I will be your acting as chair for today's meeting. Before we begin, we'll ask our clerk to confirm quorum and conduct a roll call for members' attendance.
Sí, por favor, vamos a empezar esta reunión de hoy del 18 de julio del 2023 y vamos a comenzar con las personas tomando asistencia de las personas que están presentes.
Yes.
Good morning. Special interest voting member, seat A, Ted Kagan.
Here.
Wayne Landon.
Here.
Special interest voting member, seat B, Clyde Kohler.
Here.
Sharon Beckus.
Here.
At-large voting member, seat A, David Jackson
Here.
and Todd Shaw.
Here.
At-large voting member, seat B, Todd Lordson.
Here.
At-large voting member, seat C, Alex Warner.
Here.
San Diego Center for the Blind is absent. Travelers Aid Society of San Diego, Marcy Roque. Here. And Adriana Himhapte.
Yimhappy, hi, here.
Sorry. Options for All is absent. The Arc of San Diego is absent. Jewish Family Services, Christine Stensberg.
Here.
And Marilyn Greenblatt.
Here.
FACT, seat A and B are absent. MTS, fixed and paratransit are absent. NCTD fixed route, Mary Balderrama.
Here.
And NCTD paratransit, Robert Gibo.
Here.
That ends the roll call and confirms the quorum.
Thank you, Tessa. I want to take a moment this morning to recognize a longtime member of our council, Megan Smith. Megan served as the chair of ASTAC for the past several years as FACT's Director of Operations. Recently, she left her position at FACT and therefore is no longer a member of the council. Thank you, Megan, for the years of dedication for your dedicated service to the people of San Diego County and your commitment to advancing equitable transportation options for people with limited mobility throughout our region. We will miss Megan at Aztec, and we wish you the best in your future endeavors.
Just get a little closer, probably.
Okay. Before we begin with the agenda, I would like to review the meeting process for both working group members as well as members of the public who wish to participate. For members, when you would like to speak, please raise your hand and we'll call you by name. The public also may provide live or virtual comments during today's meeting. If you are a member of the public in the room and would like to provide comments on an item, please submit a speaker's slip to the clerk. The clerk is behind here, Tessa. This can be found at the back of the room. If you are a member of the public joining us via Zoom, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. You will be called on by your name or last 4 digits of the phone number you're calling with. The clerk will call on in-person commenters first, followed by those online. Do any members of the working group have any questions before we continue? Okay. Public comments, communication members' comments.
For non-agenda public comments, there are none.
Seeing no further public comments, we will move on the members' comments. If any working group members would like to offer any comments or questions not related to items on today's agenda, please raise your hand at this time. Seeing no further comments, we will continue to the next item, which is our consent agenda, approval of the meeting minutes. Are there any public comments on the consent agenda?
There are no public comments on this item.
Seeing no further public comments, are there any comments on questions from the members?
Hi, Adrienne, I'm happy. I was in attendance at the last meeting. I just wanted to note that because on the minutes it said that I was not in attendance.
Okay, it's noted. Thank you. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion to approve the consent agenda. Wayne, thank you. Member Wayne. Todd seconds.
Do you need a
Thank
second? If so, I'll second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. We have how many? Can you raise your hand again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Okay, thank you. All opposed, please raise your hand. No hands? Okay. All abstaining? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Moving to the next item. Flex, this one, item 3. Item 3 is an information item with the flexible fleets updates from April De Jesus, Senior Regional Planner at SANDAG, and Sarah Pierce, Senior Planner at the City of San Diego.
Thank you, Chair. My name is April De Jesus. I'm a mobility planner here at SANDAG, and I'm here with Sarah Pierce, who is our partner in our flexible fleet pilots from the City of San Diego. And we are here to give you an update on our flexible fleets program here at SANDAG. So for those of you who don't know, flexible fleets are one of Sandag's 5 big moves as part of the implementation of our regional plan. And they are point-to-point services that are usually hailed by a phone application to help us serve alternative modes of circulating around the region and connecting to our regional transit network. In December of last year, we finalized our flexible fleets implementation strategic plan. And this is a project where we worked very closely with our community-based organizations to identify areas in the San Diego region that would most effectively implement some of these flexible fleets. And flexible fleets include different neighborhood electric vehicle shuttles and ride-hailing, docked and dockless bikes and scooters, and different ride-sharing options that are flexible options to get people out of cars. And in order to create a seamless experience for our flexible fleets program, we awarded or competed out and awarded a comprehensive cooperative agreement where we awarded different contracts for each of these flexible fleets categories and allowed capacity for local jurisdictions, nonprofits, universities, education centers to utilize so we can develop a seamless experience in our San Diego region. So like I said, a lot of these modes are app-based. So we wanted to make sure that as much as possible, if a user wants to use one of these services, whether they're staying within a certain city or crossing each of the city guidelines, the city boundaries, we wanted to hopefully implement services where they wouldn't have to download an app when they cross a border within San Diego. So we're really encouraging all of our local jurisdictions to utilize this cooperative agreement that we have already competitively bid. So it is a seamless experience for all the residents and visitors of the San Diego region who want to use some of these services. And right now, we wanted to share some updates on different pilot projects that are currently underway in the San Diego region. I'm going to pass it over to Sarah, who will talk about our PB neighborhood electric vehicle shuttle that just launched last week. And then we'll talk about a few other partnerships currently underway.
Awesome. Thank you, April. Good morning, everyone. Sarah Pierce. I'm a senior planner with the City of San Diego's Sustainability and Mobility Department. Really happy to be here today, especially because we're about 6 days post-launch for this project. So excited to share some details with you. As April mentioned, the city and Sandag partnered to launch a pilot neighborhood electric vehicle service in Pacific Beach. So these are fully electric neighborhood shuttles that you see on the screen here. They go about 25 miles an hour. If you've been in downtown and you've seen the little shuttles going around that say Fred on them, this is a very similar service to that. We've got about $500,000 for this sort of pilot operations period, and we're working to see, if this is successful and it's being used, how we can keep funding something like this moving forward. As April mentioned, we did launch the service officially last Wednesday. So there's a couple pictures on the screen here of that launch. Mayor Gloria hanging out the side of one of those vehicles on the top right-hand side. The shuttle is operating in the Pacific Beach Community Parking District boundary. And so you can kind of see that black line kind of surrounding that area on the map on the left there. So that's what we're calling the service area for this project. Kind of key points are the Balboa Avenue Transit Station, which you see kind of on the easternmost side there. And then, of course, big draw for folks to Pacific Beach are the beaches, but it also serves the community in between there. For the city, this is a really, really important project. We've got some significant climate action plan goals that we need to meet. And we have a GHG reduction goal trying to get to net zero GHG emissions by 2035. So we see projects like this as being sort of a first mile, last mile connection for people, a way for people to maybe have an alternative instead of using a car to get to the grocery store or get to school or get to the transit station. We are doing a lot of data collection as part of the launch of this effort. So we've also done some parking studies kind of before this service launched. We'll be looking at doing some parking studies, after and while this project is in place to see if, there's a different utilization of parking in the Pacific Beach area too. That would give us an indicator that people are maybe using a different way to get around town there. Prior to launch, we did a significant amount of community and public engagement. April was a part of that. Emily as well, who's here today. So we've done, we've had a booth at the farmer's market for a number of months, talking to people about the service in the area. Presentations to community planning groups. We launched a partnership with Discover PB to create the logo, which you see on the side door there of the car. We also did a social media contest to name the shuttle service. So it's officially called the Beach Bug now, which is kind of fun for the area. And we also did a lot of surveying online to figure out where people were going to take the shuttle, where they'd like to see it pick up and drop off to help design the service. As part of, designing an operations plan for this area, we really wanted to make sure that this service would work for all users. So right now, as a pilot service, we've launched 4 of these shuttles. One of them is a wheelchair accessible shuttle so that we can, get folks who are in a wheelchair to still be able to use the service. There's a couple of different ways that you can quote unquote book a ride. As April mentioned, there's an app that you can use. So the Circuit app is something you can download on your phone and use that to book a ride. We've also worked and partnered with a couple of other pilots in the region to have a call center available. So for those folks who don't have a smartphone available, if they feel more comfortable just picking up the phone, calling a number to get a ride, we've allowed that as well. And then in addition to that, we're also allowing folks who just see the shuttles on the street to do ride hailing. So if they can flag it down and just, say, hey, are you free to pick me up? That's another way to get a ride right now. The drivers are going to help with some education to make sure that those users understand, that there is an app to use in the future or a phone number to call. So we're trying to make sure that we're being as inclusive as possible as we launch the service to get people to use it. Right now, we're starting with some pretty long days for these shuttles to be in use, 12 to 15-hour days. Generally, we want to see where the ridership is, where people are using these shuttles, what times of day are really popular, and then we'll probably scale down or change those hours slightly in the next 3 months or so. We're going to kind of see how things go, so we can really target in having these shuttles in service when people are actually, using them the most. Right now, it's a free service. So if you're in the PV area, please go out and check it out. We're excited for people to start using this. After about 3 months, we will be introducing a fee, but it'll only be about $2.50. So not bad for a full day of riding the shuttle around Pacific Beach if you're in the area. We're also going to be mirroring the Youth Opportunity Pass. So if you are 18 or under, those rides will be free for you. Hot off the press, I do have a little data that I thought I'd share really quickly. We've gotten our initial ridership data. So I mentioned that we launched the service on the 12th, so last Wednesday. We had 78 rides on Thursday, 100 on Friday, 120 on Saturday. So lots of people starting to use the service already. We do have another pilot that the city and Sandag are partnering to work on, and that's on the next slides here. It's in southeastern San Diego. So the city is helping to kind of establish an operations plan and to help identify some electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And I'll let April tell you a little bit more about that one.
Thank you, Sarah. And I just wanted to touch base on one part of the Pacific Beach Beach Bug shuttle that's really important is, as you see on the map, it connects to the Balboa Avenue Transit Station. And the reason why this is one of our pilot areas is because when we were doing public outreach for Midcoast, we heard from the community that it was really important to connect to the beach. And so this is one of the pilot opportunities to see if we can complement transit and provide that access in an additional way for our residents and our visitors to access our beach community. And one of the other benefits as part of this pilot is that any rides that are either going to or coming from the Balboa Avenue Transit Station will also be free. And this is to encourage that first mile, last mile connection to our regional network and enhance our transportation options. So the other pilot that's currently underway is in Southeast San Diego, and similar to the neighborhood electric vehicles, we will be partnering with VIA, who is also one of our vendors in that cooperative agreement I discussed earlier. These are similar in the sense that you can hail a ride on an app or on the phone, but these vehicles are larger and hold more people in the vehicles, and they can travel at faster speeds and in higher terrain. So elevation isn't a concern for this type of vehicle. We are partnering with the Urban Collaborative Project, which is the community-based organization in this neighborhood. And we are anticipating receiving clean mobility options funding for a 4-year pilot in the Southeast San Diego community. And we are hoping to additionally enhance some of the mobility options in this community to our transportation network and leverage this pilot to prioritize some investments for electric vehicle charging in the Southeast San Diego community, which is currently lacking. So this is another opportunity. We're working with the City of San Diego very closely, and we will be sharing as we get closer to launch. Another pilot that we just launched a month ago is a neighborhood electric vehicle in the city of Oceanside. Oceanside received funding during COVID to launch a GoSide in the summer months, and that was very successful. So successful that Visit Oceanside wanted to partner with the city of Oceanside to extend this pilot for further operations. So we partnered with the city of Oceanside and Visit Oceanside for a 2-year pilot of this neighborhood electric vehicle to expand on the transportation network and also look at some best practices that we can share with the region for future implementation. So we're already leveraging our cooperative agreement to benefit both Oceanside and the city of San Diego, where we're both sharing lessons learned. How do we maximize our operations planning? How do we leverage some of our transportation network? And hopefully also turn this into a self-sustaining funding opportunity through either shared fare revenue or advertising revenue. We're working with our economists to look at different data metrics to collect baseline data in comparison to our different milestone dates throughout the pilot operations. And because these are pilots, we want to test out different tweaks that we can make. So we'll let this pilot run for a couple of months. We'll look at how things are going in Oceanside, how things are going in PB or Pacific Beach, and then we'll tweak the operations plan based on demand, based on what makes most sense, because we really do want this to be a self-sustaining service that can serve as a model for other jurisdictions in our San Diego region. And like Sarah said, it's really important that these new services are accessible, and both of these service implementations will have wheelchair accessibility that you can hail either through the app or over the phone when you do call for a ride. So another update I wanted to provide is a request for innovative concepts. We have partnered with a consortia to work with local jurisdictions, employers, universities to identify opportunities for investment. So the BEEP Consortia has funding to partner with our local jurisdictions and our regional agencies to invest in developing these mobility nodes where each of the nodes would access our regional transportation network and provide electric vehicle charging, autonomous vehicles, charging for our bikes and scooters, and basically be a point where all short-term first mile, last mile flexible fleets can come together and connect using those autonomous vehicle shuttles and expand access to our regional network. There is capital funding that these investors are providing to launch some of these capital projects and investments in exchange for a long-term contract. And Sandag has been leading several meetings with different local jurisdictions just to see if anyone is interested in doing this partnership for a long-term contract. And if you or your jurisdiction has any questions about this, we can set up a meeting with the BEEP team. They are already meeting with Imperial Beach and Oceanside to identify some right-of-way opportunities for future investment, and in the grand scheme of expanding our regional network through these mobility nodes and mobility hubs and increase access to our regional transportation network. So this is just kind of an overview of how the concept works. It has charging and storage space for shared mobility. It also has connections to transit. They incorporate enough energy for shared charging on site. And then the autonomous vehicle shuttle would just connect each of those nodes and provide access to the community to either connect to the regional network or within the community. So that's our update for flexible fleets. We look forward to continue coming here and sharing how our pilots are running, and we're here to answer any questions if you have any.
Are there any comments? Are there any public comments first on this item?
Yes.
There are no public comments on this item.
Okay, so any members' comments? I see one.
How long has this
Yeah.
been going on?
A week.
So the concept of flexible fleets was part of the last regional plan update as one of the 5 big moves. Our pilot projects that I talked about, the Pacific Beach neighborhood electric vehicle and the Oceanside neighborhood electric vehicle, just launched within the past couple of weeks.
What are the hours? I missed it. What are the hours of operation?
So there's different hours of operations for each of the services. For the Pacific Beach, I think it's 7 a.m. to as late as 10 p.m.
They
7 days
should
a week.
do it till 2 a.m. There's a lady down in Imperial Beach where I'm from, and she does kind of what you're doing. It's just one person, but it's designed so you don't get a DUI walking out of a bar. And that's why I was asking, I would think it's quite handy and safe to do it till 2 a.m. in the morning. I know it's not everybody's up that late, but I like the concept. It's
Is that IB shuffling?
it might be. I've seen it on the IB local on Facebook and stuff. It might be. It's but I believe it's just a single lady with a extended golf cart, I guess you would say. So, but it's a neat idea. It's yeah, very nice.
Yeah, I appreciate the comment. And I think, we'll be getting feedback from the community the whole time that this pilot service is running. And so if we start hearing things like that, folks feel like maybe using it later in the, evening into the nighttime would help them. That's all things that we can take into account for future, iterations of the operations plan. As April said, everything right now is fluid. We're open to feedback and things can change over time.
We will go to our next comment. Sharon.
Good morning. This is Sharon Beckus. Hi. Sarah, I have a question. My mistake was not realizing this is part of the PB shuttle, the bug, was part of flexible fleet. No concept in my head ever occurred about that. I don't see any take ones on the buses. I don't see any other way of advertising. I don't see it on MTS website unless I'm not looking in the right area. You need to promote it because we have a lot of, I live in downtown La Jolla. There's a lot of tourists that come that also want to go to PB. And so the more that you get the information out there, the more people will use it. You've also got this weekend, which is Comic-Con. They're going to take a break and go to the beaches. So how are you getting the advertisements out? And I noticed that I could go to the website and get more information, but I also like to sign up to receive notifications for updates. Other part is if I have a pass, if I have a Pronto pass, can I just get on the shuttle? Will that be after this trial run? How will that work? Thanks.
Yeah, great questions. Let me tackle both and then I'll pass along to April if she's got anything else to add. So just with regard to the advertising, you are right. We're just launching this shuttle service. We're still working on getting the word out. So appreciate the feedback on that. A lot of our sort of getting the word out right now has been, at the community groups, at the farmers markets, on social media, but appreciate the feedback about, MTS and maybe leveraging that a little bit more. I know we've talked internally about making sure that we have some signage at the Balboa Avenue Transit Station, even if it's just, a little pop-up, something that people can see, hey, there's this other connector here. So those are things that we're thinking about as well. Your second comment, now I've forgotten what it was. Help me remember. Pronto Pass. Thank you for that. Something we have been talking about since we started launching this project was, could there be some integration with that? It is still on our radar. It is still something that we are working together with Sandag, together with MTS, and together with Circuit to see if in the future, all of those stars can align in the technology world and all that stuff that goes on behind the scenes to see if that could be leveraged in the future so that it could just be a one-stop, scan your card and you could get on the beach bug. So it's on our radar. We just have to work through any technology, back end data stuff that has to go on to do that.
And then just to add on top of that, like I said earlier, if you are taking the UC San Diego Blue Line and you transfer to the Beach Bug, all your rides are free to and from the transit station. So you will be able to leverage your transit pass in that manner without, you don't have to show your transit pass, you just have to pick it up or get dropped off at the Balboa Avenue transit station.
Have you thought of a little tiny booth or something at Comic-Con area this weekend to sort of like promote it?
No, we have not.
I think that just so you guys understand, the Beach Bug operations budget isn't as extensive as the whole transit network. So we're trying to do the best we can with the limited funds that we do have. But I do appreciate that comment as we look at opportunities to leverage either advertising or partnerships, we might integrate it in future events to spread the word.
We had another raise hand here. Yes.
So if you go to sandag.org/flexible-fleets, which is the website identified on this slide, we connect to both the City of San Diego and City of Oceanside's website that cover information for both. So we try to make it easy for everybody who is interested to come to our website and relink back to each of the project pages associated.
Thank you. Yeah, any other member comment? So this is an information item that requires no formal action from the council. So seeing no further comments, we will move to the next item. Thank you, April. Thank you, Sarah, for bringing this item. Our next item is a discussion regarding the next generation rapid conception plans from Zachary Brand, Associate Regional Planner at Sandag.
Great, thank you, Alex. Good morning, everyone. I've switched sides of the room now, but I'm going to be talking about our project planning some new rapid bus routes here in the San Diego region and giving you an overview of our progress so far and asking for some input from you all. We have a few interactive slides, so if you're game, there'll be a way for you to interact on the iPads, and I can explain that more when we get there. And if not, no worries, we can just talk about it. So our rapid routes that we're going to be talking about are one of the major strategies from our 2021 regional plan. And so as you see our regional plan network get built in here, you see some of the mobility hubs and flexible fleets like April and Sarah were talking about. And then we layer on top of that managed lanes. And then this teal network here is all of the different rapid routes that we have planned throughout the county. And so these are all bus routes that operate with limited stops, high frequency, different things like that to get people throughout the whole region, really. And then, of course, on top of that, we have our rail services. But as you can see, there's a lot more of those rapid lines as there are anything else. So they're really the backbone of our 2021 regional plan network. As I mentioned, these are planned to be high frequency routes. So we're planning all of these routes to operate every 10 minutes all day long. So a lot of the routes right now operate less frequently than that. And especially if you're going early in the morning, late at night, on the weekends, it's a lot less frequent and harder to catch the bus. We're trying to solve that with this. They'll have limited stops, so they don't have to stop as much. You can get places faster that way and create a more reliable network. And in a lot of cases, they also include dedicated lanes, dedicated right-of-way in order to get them around traffic and priority at intersections so that they don't have to stop as much. Like I said, it creates a faster and more reliable commute for folks who are commuting by transit and makes it a better and more reliable option so that people don't have to drive everywhere and there's something for everyone on the bus. So some of the ways that we are looking at identifying these strategies that we want to look at are bus-only lanes. Like I mentioned, this is our most effective strategy. It reserves a specific part of the road that is specifically for the use of buses. As you can imagine, it really circumvents all the traffic that it could and really lets the bus have a consistent and reliable commute. The second is what we call transit signal priority. So this is when there's computers on the buses, all of our stoplights have some sort of computer interaction. And this way the buses and the stoplights can talk to each other so that the stoplight knows when a bus is coming. It can maybe hold a green for a little bit longer, or it can turn green sooner so that the bus doesn't have to wait as long at an intersection, and really make that commute faster and more reliable for folks on the bus. Our third is related to bus-only lanes, and this is dedicated guideways. So this is a real-life picture right here of our Rapid 225 route, which currently exists down in Chula Vista. Here, the bus kind of operates on its own street, essentially, where next to the regular street for cars, there is a special guideway that is only for the buses. So it completely avoids any traffic, any turning conflicts, all of that. And it provides a really nice experience for riders while they're on the bus and while they're at stations waiting for the bus. And so these are some examples up in Los Angeles of some newly opened bus lanes. You can see here how the bus is able to bypass all of that traffic. Studies show that bus lanes can move 4,000 to 8,000 people per hour, whereas general traffic lanes typically are limited to around 1,600 people per hour in private cars. So we're really expanding the capacity of our roadway system here without actually widening the road or anything like that, because those have a lot of negative impacts. But this way we're able to move more people with our existing infrastructure. We're also looking at the TSP, transit signal priority, like I mentioned, to increase that efficiency and including complementary bicycle and pedestrian improvements and general accessibility improvements nearby stations, so that people are really able to access the bus stations. They're not kind of in a desert or a no man's land. At those stations, we are aiming to include a lot of enhancements, including off-board fare payment. So this is like on the trolley or the coaster. When you tap your Pronto card or you scan your phone before you get on, it will really speed up the process of boarding the bus and letting people get on quicker, letting the bus pull up to the station, everyone gets on, and the bus moves along. When we're actually boarding the bus, the two major strategies that we're considering are called level boarding and all-door boarding. So level boarding really helps with mobility devices, especially. So you can see here, there's a picture of a man getting off of the train with his bike. The same can apply to devices like wheelchairs and walkers. It's a lot easier to get on and off of the bus this way. And we don't really need a ramp anymore, which the ramp takes a lot of time as well. It is pretty inconvenient. And so this way, folks who have mobility devices have an easy way to get on and off the bus. And everyone who's on the bus has a faster commute. All-door boarding is a similar idea where you can use every door on the bus, which could be 2, 3, or 4 doors instead of just the one door in the front. And that really couples with the off-board fare payment. If everyone's already paid their fare, no need for everyone to walk by the bus driver when they get on. And the final thing about stations is we're going to be looking at relocating and consolidating stations, like I mentioned, to make sure that they're in the best places and the most useful places for people, while also making sure that we're not having too many stations that aren't really used at all and kind of slow down the bus. Those stations we're planning to have enhanced amenities. As you see here, this is one of our stations on the Rapid 215 in City Heights. It has a really big awning with shade cover. It's got more seating than a traditional bus stop. On the far left there, you can see the sign that tells you when the next bus is going to show up, the electronic changing sign. And so these are really to make people's waits and people's commutes a lot more convenient and feel more comfortable for them as they're waiting for the bus. And finally, our strategies here include improving accessibility around stations and improving the bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure nearby. So these include things like curb extensions, so that the crossing distances are shorter for people, improved ways for folks who are using wheelchairs and other mobility devices to cross the street. All of our strategies also include improvements for pedestrians and folks using active transportation, bicycles, scooters, wheelchairs, anything like that, in order to make sure that you can really connect to the bus stops without any issues. And so if you are on your iPad, if you click the home button and then Safari, we can go in here. I thought the code was going to be on this page, but it is, yeah, the Menti code. Yeah, can you put it up? So Daniel's going to put up the Menti here for us. So we just have a couple questions here. One question now, and then we'll come back later. So the code that you type in at the top of the page there is 35356558. Sorry. Yeah, the code again is 35356558.
Too small. Thank you.
And then you should be able to see this right here. Yep. I wish it was bigger on this page. I thought I did too. And so then you'll see all these options, which are really all of the things that I mentioned a minute ago. And you're able to go in there and rank them and see which ones do you like best. Do you think that the station shelters are going to be the most important things for accessibility? Or is it going to be the flexible connections like April was talking about? So we should be able to see those results coming in if you are doing this. And then we are going to, oh, perfect. And then we are going to take all of your advice that we have here and incorporate it into this part of our study. When we put our report out, we'll be able to see what STAC thinks is the most important for accessibility. And that's contributes directly to the results of our study. Yep. Oh, I don't know.
It allows you to take one option and not the second option.
Right. All right, I'm seeing 11 responses, but I think is mostly everyone here. But it looks like we're talking about those ADA and accessibility improvements that I'd mentioned are really important, and that level boarding and all-door boarding can provide a lot of improvements, which I think we agree with. And I'm really glad to see that that's what we are looking at here at STAC. And we will make note of this. I would advise you to keep that page open because there's going to be a couple more as we go on. Can we go back to PowerPoint? Perfect. So when we're looking at these travel lanes and the bus right of way, we've got a few different strategies. Like I mentioned, we've got those bus lanes that usually run on the side, those guideways and center running bus lanes, and then some improvements that also have to do with improving access for bicycles, pedestrians, wheelchairs, and other folks arriving to the stations. Our first route that we're looking at, we have 3 routes that are part of the study that I didn't mention at the beginning, but the first is Route 41. This is an existing local route that is served by MTS service from UC San Diego to Fashion Valley. And we're looking at doing a rapid, what we call an overlay of the service. So we would maintain the existing service as the local service, but also provide this express limited stop rapid service. Our first option here for this route includes a lot of bus only lanes that run on the side. Those are all the blue that you see on the map. And the black that you see on the map is some spots where we don't have any bus lanes and the bus runs in regular traffic. So mostly bus only lanes, some mixed traffic on this option. This one's kind of as our lower cost alternative, but it would probably lead to transit service that is better than what's out there today, but not as good as we could do. So that's where our second option comes in, which makes all of those black mixed traffic parts bus lanes and upgrades some of those bus lanes to bus lanes that run in the center. Like I mentioned, those avoid any conflicts with people who are turning, people who are at driveways, parking, things like that. And so this, we're saying, is our higher investment strategy, something that will cost a little bit more, but will lead to the best transit service that we can provide. We have one more option for this alternative, or for this route, which is number 3. This was developed after we had some discussions with UC San Diego, who have been a really valuable partner with us in our transit network over the past decade or so. And they discussed the need for a direct connection between their two campuses, the main campus in La Jolla and their medical center hospital campus in Hillcrest. And we thought, since this route is going so close to Hillcrest anyway, we might as well expand it down 1 more mile into Hillcrest, make that connection to the UCSD hospital, the Scripps Hospital, as well as all of the different transit connections and population and areas of interest that are there in Hillcrest, because it's a really big activity center. And so this is a really exciting opportunity for us to make that connection across Mission Valley, across the 8, which is usually a pretty difficult connection to make on transit. I wanted to give you a quick example of what theoretically some of these might look like. So like I mentioned here, we would maintain some vehicle traffic, but also make sure that we have priority for buses within the corridor. So this is along Genesee, close to SR 52 in the Claremont Mesa neighborhood. And we just recently developed some draft concept drawings for this. So this is a corner here in Linda Vista, where you can see the red there is how we would have some dedicated bus lanes. The orange is some expanded sidewalks along the corners. And then the blue, if you can see the little blue, and you can have these on your agenda as well, and you can blow them up as big as you want. The blue is the bus stops there, which are designed as, we call them, bus islands, so that they aren't interfered with by any bike lanes or anything like that, so that we have a continuous bike lane and a convenient bus stop for folks getting on and off the bus. We have some other examples of these here as we go along Genesee, with more of the dedicated bus lanes, and then some here that run along the middle of the street, like I mentioned, and all of these interact at intersections and with the expanded pedestrian sidewalks and bike lanes. So our next slide on the Menti should let you give your feedback on these 3 options. I think you just need to go to the next slide here, and then it should advance on your iPad, and you can say the first option there, which was that lower investment option, the second option, which includes some more bus dedication, and the third option, which includes all that bus dedication plus the extension into Hillcrest. Yes, Alex?
There is the cost of it, but what is the time for the 3 options? Because if you have something with more cost, would that means that that option will take longer? And how much longer would that mean?
It might take longer, a little bit longer to implement. That's true, but there's also some other considerations. We could, do part of it and then continue and finish the investment at a later date. We also might be more competitive for some grants if we're being more aggressive and more progressive. But overall, we're just trying to gauge which ones you think you like best overall in terms of from a transit service perspective.
Thank you, Zach.
I have a question for going up to UCSD Hillcrest?
Yeah.
Medical Center. Are they going up Bachman? How are they going from Fashion Valley up to UCSD?
Yeah, the plan would be to go up Bachman. UCSD is redoing that whole thing right now, and that way we can avoid the freeway, and that's a mess, yeah. All right, so we're saying here option 3 is the favorite out of STAC. So we'll make note of that in our report and use that towards our performance measures. Our second route here, second route here is in the South Bay. This is, we're calling Route 625. It would start in the north at San Diego State University. So another connection and partnership with our local universities, and traverse south through City Heights, Southeast San Diego, National City, and Chula Vista. And it would terminate at the Palomar trolley station on the Blue Line. So we have 3 options again here. These are a little less clear in terms of like less, more. But the 3 options here include this option 1, which we are calling our lower capital cost option, which would probably have slightly slower transit service. There's some sections with mixed traffic on here, like you can see the black there. And so a section up there on El Cajon Boulevard, which is green, which is a shared bus and bike lane, which is also not ideal. We're also using Chula Vista 3rd Avenue through downtown Chula Vista, which limits our ability to do bus dedication because the right of way there is constrained. If you've been to Chula Vista, they have a really nice streetscape project down there. And it's really pretty and really fun to walk around in, but it doesn't leave a lot of space to put bus lanes in. Our second option here avoids that constraint on 3rd Avenue. So we use 3rd Avenue in the southern half of Chula Vista and then reroute to 4th Avenue, where there's plenty of room for a bus lane, and it's still pretty close to all of the activity centers. We're also looking at some dedicated transit lanes in the middle of the street, as well as a dedicated guideway in the middle and northern half of the section, and using University Avenue instead of El Cajon Boulevard. So this is, we're anticipating will lead to faster service, but will probably cost a little bit more. And our third option here is kind of in the middle. So we're using slightly different streets with bus and bike shared lane through downtown Chula Vista to try to use that 3rd Avenue corridor. And then 8th Avenue instead of Plaza in National City, which is probably a little bit less ideal, but it provides new transit service to that corridor. And then up in the north, University Avenue again. So as another example, this is what something like a bus lane in the center might look like, where we still maintain those vehicle lanes of traffic, but also provide dedication for buses for people using transit for their commute, and also provide some infrastructure for folks on bikes. Like I mentioned, here's another one of those conceptual drawings. This is on Plaza Boulevard in National City. Going under the 805, this is where the bus would potentially go in the middle of the street. As you see here, we are expanding the sidewalks there in orange. There's some slip lanes where the cars can make a free right turn movement currently off of the freeway. We would be eliminating those. They're really dangerous, especially for pedestrians. And especially as we're nearby a bus stop, we don't really.
Es muy peligroso, especialmente cuando no hay paradas de buses.
And this also includes
Esto también incluye
bus stop.
las paradas de buses.
Sorry, our second example here is
Este es el segundo ejemplo aquí.
Really providing a lot of good priority and not interacting with turning movements at all. And our third option here is another turning movement here in City Heights. And some of these are pretty similar to some other examples, but same idea where we have bus dedication, bike dedication, enhanced pedestrian space, and overall a more multimodal street. So the next slide on your Menti should ask you about these 3 routes for 625, if it's advanced there. And as a reminder, option 1 was the one that uses some mixed traffic through Chula Vista and National City. Option 2 was the one that has the more center running lanes. And option 3 was kind of the hybrid option. Right, I'm seeing option 2 and 3 at the top, mostly. We got 13 responses. I think that's most of the folks here. So we got option 3, then option 2, then option 1, pretty even spread down. So thank you for that one. Again, we'll incorporate that. And our final option here, we have some geographic diversity here. Wanted to make sure we covered the whole county. And so these first 2 routes that you saw were in MTS service area. And this third route here is up in North County. We're calling this one Route 471. This is in Escondido. And it starts in the eastern part of Escondido, where there isn't a lot of good transit service right now, and then goes west through central Escondido, downtown Escondido, stops at the Escondido Transit Center, and then continues west across the 15, which is a new addition to this route, and serves the new hospital, the Palomar Medical Center, and then potentially a shopping center in San Marcos right on the edge of the border there. So our first option here is mostly our lower investment option. As you can see in the east there, we're using some bus lanes that run on the side. We've got some segments in mixed traffic. And if you can see in the middle there, we're using what we call a one-way couplet through downtown Escondido. So the bus is going east on one street and west back on the other street. So the way a lot of the streets here in downtown San Diego work. And that avoids some of the major commercial centers on Grand Avenue through downtown Escondido, and allows us to provide some bus dedication on those outside streets. Our second option here would go through the central part of downtown Escondido here on Grand Avenue. We're proposing something pretty progressive and innovative here as a dedicated transit way, where we would make Grand Avenue basically a transit and pedestrian only area where we would move cars to other streets. In the eastern half, we're working on Grand Avenue as well here through some residential areas that have some transit ridership. And our third option here maintains that transit guideway through downtown Escondido, but uses Valley Parkway in the eastern half with some center running lanes for some really good transit priority. Here's an example of what this might look like by the Escondido Transit Center. As I mentioned, a lot of these are one-way streets. And so a way to provide access to the Escondido Transit Center, which is currently on a one-way westbound street, would be to include a eastbound, what we call contraflow bus lane. So this means that we maintain the one-way traffic basically for the whole street, except we take the very edge of the road and make it a bus lane going in the opposite direction. So this way people don't have to make like a block walking transfer to get to the transit center. So this is something a little bit different in this route that we don't have anywhere else. We thought it was kind of a cool idea to pitch and see what we can get out of it. As we look at some of these drawings again, as you can see, again, we have the orange extended curb there and the bus lanes. This is that contraflow bus lane that I talked about a second ago on Valley Parkway, transitioning down towards downtown Escondido. And then this is what we would propose for it to look like through central downtown Escondido, where we've got, you can see the red bus lanes, the blue is kind of a buffer or a walkway, the green is a bike lane, and the orange is an extended sidewalk for people to walk, enjoy their time. Maybe businesses can have outdoor dining and things like that to make it a really pedestrian-oriented fun street. And so your final Menti slide here should be about Rapid 471. You have the three options there. As I mentioned, option 1 uses the outside streets through downtown Escondido. Option 2 uses Grand with that transit-only guideway through downtown, and option 3 does as well. And option 2 in the east uses the residential street, whereas option 3 uses a commercial street. I don't remember. It looks like this one's pretty evenly spread, pretty even, a lot more than the other two, I would say, but looks like we're reaching a critical mass there. So thank you for your input on that, your feedback on that. Oh, one more, awesome. Okay. And that is all of the updates that I have. Our timeline so far is right now, as I said, we're doing those conceptual drawings. Our consultant is working on some cost estimates, and we might be going back and refining some of those options and alternatives for the different routes. In the fall, we're going to hopefully finalize the study report, present it to the Transportation Committee, and move forward. Later this year and early next year, we're hoping to look for some grant opportunities if there's a willingness to partner with cities and institutions or anyone else, MTS, NCTD, Caltrans, to move these routes into the next phase of planning and hopefully start construction and operation as soon as we can. That concludes the presentation, and I can take questions. I know it was a long one, sorry.
Are there any public comments on this item?
There are no public comments on this item.
Are there any member comments or questions on this item? Please raise your hand. Done.
I was just curious. I'm assuming we've
Todd.
done.
Turn on your mic.
It is on. I'm assuming we've done like traffic studies to see volumes in these areas, because I mean, when you start talking about closing lanes down, especially in some of these areas where it's obviously the center of town, you're going to just obviously displace a lot of traffic in some of these places. Where is it going to go?
So we're going to be doing probably some more advanced traffic studies when we work on the next phase of our project. This was basically mostly looking at what we can do specifically for transit. Really, we call it our conceptual study. As you mentioned, we might be taking or repurposing some lanes in some cases. Luckily, that doesn't always lead to some Carmageddon that some people think. Sometimes we saw that happen in Los Angeles when they do construction on some freeways, and same thing in Seattle when it was closed down. And so there's some examples from around the country where if there might be less options for folks who are driving, kind of there's just fewer trips, and we don't see some Armageddon of traffic happening. Obviously, we're going to take as many steps as we can to mitigate anything that we see that might come up. But we also want to make sure that we're not, spending additional wasteful money if there's nothing that we need to really mitigate for.
Okay, and the other kind of question, or at least more of a comment that I had was, I mean, in your presentation, the display where the bus was going past all the traffic, I mean, at some point, it'll be adverse to to what you want to happen as far as getting these lanes going. If everybody that is in a car gets to see a bus cruise right on by them, and the lane, for the most part, stays empty a lot of the time because you only have so many buses running. So do you think at a certain point that is going to run counter to your argument or to your plan as far as how the public views these lanes?
I wouldn't say that I anticipate that. Obviously, we want to make sure that we do the outreach and make sure that people, know how the bus lane works and know that just what's going on essentially. And we don't want to turn people against us, obviously. But we are planning, like I said, to run these rapid services every 10 minutes in those routes, which doesn't sound like that much. It is more frequent than most of our routes. But something else to notice that a lot of these routes operate in corridors where there's other transit service as well. And so for the most part, all those other transit services can also use these bus routes. There's nothing really that prevents them from doing it. So for example, in Route 41 on that corridor, the current local route runs every 15 minutes. In our plans, I think it's supposed to run every 10 minutes by our 2050 plans. And there's some other routes, I think, that use small portions of that corridor. And so all of those routes can benefit from this, which fills up the bus lanes a little bit more. So it could help with that perception. And also, it just, these investments provide us with more benefit than only these rapid routes.
Are there any other member comments or questions on this item? No. This is a discussion item that requires no formal action from the council. So seeing no further comments, we will move to the next item. And Specialized Transportation Grant Program Transportation Grant Program 2022 annual update.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Zach Rivera, not confused with the other Zach. There are a lot of Zachs today. I'm a program manager of the Specialized Transportation Grant Program, or STGP, along with my coworker, colleague, Ali Vasquez, who you'll hear from later today. There we go. So today we're going to introduce the program, provide an overview of the Cycle 12 call for projects, describe our monitoring efforts in calendar year 2022, discuss next steps, and finally answer any questions you may have. I'll start by introducing our program goal. The SGGP seeks to improve mobility for older adults and individuals with disabilities by delivering effective, environmentally responsible, equitable, and coordinated transportation solutions in our region, which is on this slide. To fulfill our goal, we provide funding to the Federal Transit Administration Section 5310 program and the Transnet Senior Mini Grant Program to eligible applicants such as nonprofit organizations, local governmental agencies, as well as transit operators. Grantees can apply for 3 grant types under the SGGP: mobility management, operating, and capital. Mobility management grants consist of activities to improve coordination among public transportation and other transportation service providers. Eligible mobility management grants include transportation information referral services, travel training and brokerage management solutions. Operating grants consist of activities to operate, maintain, and manage a transportation service for older adults and individuals with disabilities. Eligible programs include travel training, programs that offer transit pass subsidies, volunteer driver programs, and the like. Capital grants consist of the acquisition of contracted transportation services or the purchase of accessible vehicles. Capital grants are only eligible under the 5310 program and can last anywhere from 2 to 7 years. And mobility management and operating projects typically last about 2 years. About every 2 years, SANDAG holds a competitive process or call for projects to distribute available STGP funding. Since the program started in 2006, we have awarded over 62 million over 12 competitive cycles. The median amount awarded per cycle since cycle 8 is approximately $7.1 million or about 28 grants. Since starting with cycle 8, 2 former federal programs were combined into the current section 5310 program, which is why when you look at the graph at cycle 8 and onwards, there's an increase in funding awarded. Let me now turn to the STGP cycle 12 call for projects, the most recent competitive process, which was held in 2022. In January 2022, we started the process by listening and learning. We listened to stakeholders, we reviewed best practices, we assessed the specialized transportation needs of the region. We synthesized all this information to draft evaluation criteria used to score proposed projects. We then presented the criteria to the SANDAG policy advisory committees to review. Then SANDAG board considered approval. Upon approval, we released the call for projects, opening a 90-day application window. In the third phase, staff reviewed submitted applications for eligibility. Eligible applications were forwarded to evaluators external to SANDAG to score, and project rankings were developed. We presented the funding recommendations to SANDAG policy advisory committees and the board for approval. And finally, on February 24th, 2023, the SANDAG board approved the cycle 12 awards. As a result of the cycle 12 call for projects, 36 projects from 11 nonprofit organizations and local agencies were collectively awarded $7.9 million in funding, and many of those recipients are in this room right now. Thus, the STGP was able to fund about 82% of the total funding requested for the cycle. Now I'll pass the mic to Ali to talk about our monitoring efforts in 2022.
All right, thank you, Zach. Hello, everyone. I'm Ali Vasquez, and I help to monitor the Specialized Transportation Grant Program. So in terms of monitoring for our program, we monitor grantees for several things, mainly to make sure they're following the scope that they originally intended and compliance with our grant agreement terms, as well as compliance with applicable federal regulations, such as Americans with Disability Act or Title VI. So during the year 2022, we had 62 active grants that were active during 2022, and that's about 17 million in funding that the grants division was monitoring. Of those 62 grants, 73% of them were federally Section 5310 funded, and 27% were funded through the Transnet Senior Mini Grant Program. And this makes sense because our federal funding tends to be our larger funding source. So that makes Transnet more competitive to apply for. Of those 62 active grants, there were 35% that were operating grants, 15% that were mobility management grants, and 50% that were capital. Capital tends to be our most popular grant because, as Zach mentioned, those grants are longer term. So almost every year we have more capital grants because it's based off of the lifespan of the equipment. To put things into perspective, during the year 2022, we had about 121 accessible vehicles those capital grants funded that were out there operating on the roads, providing transportation for older adults and people with disabilities around the region. So as far as some statistics on our grants from last year, those grants were able to provide over 400,000 in one-way passenger trips, and we can estimate that those trips were able to benefit over 8,000 passengers based off of the annual client demographic data that we receive from grantees. And during the year 2022, we also benefited from some COVID-19 Section 5310 supplemental funding through the program. And with this funding, grantees were able to purchase over 15,000 in COVID-19 supplies. And that included things like test kits, hand sanitizers, cleaning supplies, and gloves. So as you can see, the impact of our program on the region is wide-reaching. However, there were some challenges during the year 2022, and this includes things like driver shortages, and this is something that our grantees are still struggling with into 2023. They also face increased costs, and this was due to rising prices, inflation, and there was a gas price increase during the middle of 2022, which impacted many of our grants as well, especially our operating grants, and this created higher costs per trips. And then there was supply chain delays that we faced as well. And this mainly impacted our capital grants that have vehicles. So this resulted in delays in vehicle deliveries for some of the SANDAG funded vehicles that we purchased on their behalf. And then also it resulted in longer vehicle out of service times. So what that means is during vehicle repairs, grantees would take a vehicle to a mechanic to get repaired, and it would take longer to get those replacement parts due to the supply chain delays. So it caused longer vehicle out of service times. We did our best to accommodate these issues at SANDAG by executing waivers to Board Policy 35, which allowed for those higher costs per trips and vehicle out of service times. We also executed many extensions, many of which were for those vehicle grantees that had those vehicle out of service times. So what are our next steps going into the year 2023, which we're already halfway through? So many of these steps have already been implemented. So I'll go ahead and talk about those right now. So as we reflect on the year 2022, our last cycle that Zach talked about, and our monitoring efforts, we are exploring ways to improve. And one of the ways that we would like to improve our next call is by modifying the sum of ranks approach in our evaluation of future applicants and increasing funding distribution across varying applicant types and geographies. We also would like to streamline the application process for future applicants. And in terms of our monitoring efforts of the SCGP, we are updating the monitoring checklists to make it easier to understand and also to reduce the weight of costs per trip when we annually monitor grantees. We are also increasing vehicle grant timeframes on the front end. So what I mean by this is if we execute future vehicle grants for the SCGP, what we're going to do is we're going to overestimate the time of those vehicle grants so that we don't have to do as many extensions later on, saving SANDAG staff time as well as grantee staff time. And then lastly, we're going to increase our communication with our grantees, and we're already doing this in 2023, and that's through a monthly e-newsletter that we've been sending to all of our grantees, and that provides program-wide updates as well as agency-wide updates, and that not only provides information to our grantees, but we're hoping that it creates an open line of communication between the agency and between our grantees so they can feel open to communicating with us frequently about any issues that they are having. So we wanted to use this opportunity to talk about the future call for projects. So if you or your organization is interested in applying for the next call for SCGP, there's a few steps you could take. You could join our stakeholder email distribution list to receive periodic updates on the call. You can also check out our web page and the SANDAG coordinated plan, which helps to direct our program. Or you can provide input on draft evaluation criteria during those workshops that we're having on the call that you'll learn about from that email distribution list. And lastly, you can register in BidNet. So BidNet's our SANDAG grant solicitation portal that we use for all of our grant applications. And you can create a profile ahead of time. And then that way, when the application opens, you are ready to go. Our application, we anticipate, will open in July 2024, and we encourage any eligible applicants to apply. Okay, so that's pretty much it for our presentation today. We hope that we were able to provide you with information on our program and how last year went for us. And if you would like any more information, please check out our webpage. You can also email us at grantsdistribution@sandag.org. And lastly, if you are a rider listening to our presentation today and in need of a ride, please contact Facilitating Access to Coordinated Transportation, or FACT. They are one of our grantees that assists with specialized transportation in the region and can assist you. Thank you for your time. We welcome any questions.
There are no public comments.
Are there any member comments or questions on this item? Please raise your hand at this time. No comments? Todd?
Sorry, just one. The link that was mailed out to us, is this presentation in the link for the agenda item? I mean, I'm assuming it is. Okay. So I've got somebody who's interested in applying, and so I want to try to make sure they get all the information the last slide here, the distribution, stakeholder, all that stuff. So thanks.
Yeah, and if I can just add, we both get the emails from the grants distribution listserv. So if you get any contacts, send it over to us, and we're happy to add them to our distribution list.
This is a discussion item that requires no formal action from the council. So seeing no further comments, we will move to the next item. Item 6, an information item regarding ASHTAC membership for fiscal year 2024. Zach will provide an update. Thank you, Zach.
Thanks, Alex. So as we mentioned in our May meeting, there are 4 positions on STAC whose terms are expiring this year. 3 of these positions are individual members. One of them is an agency membership. And I am happy to announce that the STAC membership committee has reviewed the applications for these 4 positions and has selected the following applicants to fill the open positions for the upcoming term. For individual members, we have selected Wayne Landon, Clady Kohler, and Lori Seagram. And as an agency member, we have selected San Diego Center for the Blind. So congratulations. And we thank all the applicants, and SANDAG encourages any applicants who were not selected for membership to continue to attend STAC meetings and apply for membership again next year.
Okay. Are there any public comments on this item?
There are no public comments.
Seeing no further public comments, are there any comments or questions from members? No comments and questions from members? This is
Sorry, one thing to add is that all these new members will be seated at our next meeting, which will be in September. And at that time, we will have an election for the new chair and vice chair for the upcoming year. So if you want to be chair, keep that in mind.
This is a discussion item that requires no formal action from the council. So seeing no further comments, we will move to the next item. Okay. Item 7 is an information item regarding proposed services changes and other notable activity from the transit operators, MTS and NCTD. I'll turn it over MTS and NCTD representatives for their updates.
For NCTD, we're preparing for our October service change, and we're looking to restore our 302 and 303 routes to full frequency. For our ZEB bus award for 29 million, we'll be purchasing 23 hydrogen fuel cell buses, and preliminary coaster ridership data for June is already showing a 28% spike compared to 2022, thanks to Padres games and special events.
And Robert Gibo for paratransit. Staffing, we're still having a shortage of drivers. We're working diligently to get that taken care of as quickly as possible. Ridership has increased a little bit, but we're still down 50% from where we were pre-COVID. So there's that. And then we're utilizing this time to retrain all of our internal staff, our dispatchers, our reservationists, and trying to just, do some retraining, make some adjustments to improve our service quality to our customers. So that's all I have.
Are there any public comments on this item?
There are no public comments.
I have sorry. Are there any comments or questions from the members?
Sharon Beckus. I appreciate the feedback from NCTD fabulously. I do. I'm just disappointed MTS doesn't have a person here because I ride MTS and this is a crucial information that's needed. So maybe backups to the backups could be something be in place because it's crucial. Sorry, wanted to give that comment.
Thank you, Sharon. This is an information item that requires no formal action from the council. So seeing no further comments, we will move to the next item. Item 8 is a discussion item regarding unmet transit needs and annual public hearings. Zach will provide an update.
Thank you, Alex. So Sandag, MTS, and NCTD have addressed most of the comments that we received during the 2023 unmet needs public hearing that we held at the last STAC meeting in May. Once we have all the responses finalized, I'll distribute the most updated version of that table to all of the members here. So you can look for that in the coming weeks. As part of our efforts to more effectively understand and address the region's unmet transit needs, we will also begin taking comments regarding unmet needs at each STAC meeting instead of just once per year, which we've discussed before. During this item right now, we can take comments from working group members and members of the public on any additional unmet needs that should be addressed. Staff will work to direct the comments to the appropriate contacts at the various agencies for response and/or action.
Thank you for that update, Zach. As he mentioned, we can take comments from anyone on additional unmet needs during this item. Are there any public comments on this item?
There are no public comments.
Seeing no further public comments, are there any comments or questions from the members?
Mary Balderrama, for unmet transit needs, something that's come to my attention in my own work has been a lack of ADA compliant bus stops. And it's very messy trying to coordinate with the variety of jurisdictions and property, and then the cost prohibitive element of making ADA compliant stops. So I'm just really curious if Sandag has any programs that we could work with, perhaps grants to get bus stop improvements and coordination with jurisdictions. Thank you.
We will take note of your comment. Go ahead.
Todd Shaw, I just wanted to reiterate the need for additional train drivers and facilities that provide that training as well, because there's not even a lot of facilities that provide that training in San Diego. So.
Yeah, Todd Lordson, San Diego Regional Center. And I mean, I know I've said it a couple times, the 56 corridor is just, lack of public transit through, I think it's a 56, which then in turn also means lack of ADA services through the 56 area. And we've got some riders in that area that just can't take any kind of fixed route or ADA services. So it's just a continued comment to put out, I guess. Thanks.
Sharon Beckus, I was at a congregational meal the other day with seniors. And one of the feedback was regarding Mission Trails. There's no transit to get to Mission Trails. And we're trying to encourage health and everything, and poor people can't get to the Mission Trails. So just a feedback from the group that I was with. Thank you.
Any other comment from the members?
Yeah, it's on. I don't get down to San Diego bus riding very often. However, this morning I came on the 215 from the Center Line stop on El Cajon Boulevard to downtown. And I was quite shocked at the amount of rattling and banging and clanging on that bus. It was really so noisy that I've been the big advocate for the automated call outs for the stops. I could hear that it was being said, but I couldn't understand it because there was so much racket, and it wasn't people, it was the bus. I just needed to make that comment. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Any other member comments? This is a discussion item that requires no formal action from the council. So seeing no further comments, we will move to the next item, which is item 9. It's an information item regarding recent developments from facilitating access to coordinated transportation and council on access and mobility. We will turn it over FACT to their further updates.
Hi, Allie Portman for FACT. FACT kicked off the Access for All program, also known as Ride FACT Now, with Wheels on the Ground on June 1st. Ride FACT Now is a same-day service for individuals using wheelchair and other mobility devices. Sandag marketing staff and St. Paul's Chula Vista hosted a media event on July 15th with speakers from Honorable Nora Vargas's office, the Chula Vista Mayor, and FACT's board chairs, Susan Hafner. Ride FACT, our Ride FACT program is suspended until further notice due to no funding for Cycle 12. In CAM, our FACT board has recommended that a representative from CAM will be a voting seat on the FACT board, and this would be voted for approval at the next CAM meeting in September. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any public comments on this item?
There are no public comments.
Seeing no further public comments, are there any comments or questions from the members? No comments from the members. This is an information item that requires no formal action from the council. So seeing no further comments, we will move to the next item. Item 10 is an information item regarding the staff updates from Sandak Transit Planning Team provided by SAC.
Thank you one last time, Alex. So I have a few updates on what we've got going on in the transit planning section here at Sandag. First, we have started work on a Purple Line planning study. The Purple Line, if you are unaware, is a new rail line proposed, which would connect the border region to the Sorrento Mesa Job Center through the communities of San Isidro, Chula Vista, National City, Southeastern San Diego, City Heights, and Kearny Mesa. So connecting a lot of our big residential dense neighborhoods with some of the region's biggest job centers. We don't have many updates on it right now, but I wanted to let you know it's happening. And we'll have more information in upcoming STAC meetings. We're also evaluating ways to speed up the Blue Line trolley service between the border and downtown. Staff is currently in the process of selecting a consultant to support the planning project, and we will soon establish a public outreach plan and assess existing conditions for that area. We'll keep STAC updated and have discussions here in later parts of the project about options for certain express bus or express limited stop rail service in this important corridor. So the project team will, I assume, come back to STAC in the coming months when there's more to report. Additionally, as part of our Blue Line planning, we're advancing 2 more projects, including work on a future San Isidro mobility hub. We're preparing to release a draft of station improvement concepts for for public input on near-term improvements to the station at San Isidro, which is one of the busiest stations in our region. We're looking to seek grants in the coming months to support a long-term planning study to develop a vision for the future mobility hub there. And similarly, we are exploring strategies to support transit ridership and community integration at multiple stations in the South Bay region through as part of our transit-oriented development study along the Blue Line. So we're looking at transit-oriented development, other infill development, and mobility improvements at the stations at San Isidro, and I believe it's Palomar Street in Chula Vista. And we're expecting to get started on that project in the next month or so. So that'll be something exciting to keep a watch on in the coming months as well. And my last update is that we have begun a study that will evaluate the impacts of various fare subsidies throughout the region, building off of our efforts with Youth Opportunity Pass to comprehensively evaluate the transit system's fare structure here in San Diego County. Staff is currently compiling a report of peer agency practices, and we recently received feedback from our social equity CBO outreach team on our public involvement plan. And like everything else, we will keep STAC updated on the progress of this study as well as we continue. And of course, we have the two projects that we talked to you about today in much more depth, but that's everything we've got going on right now.
Are there any public comments on this item?
There are no public comments.
Are there any member comments on this item? No member comments or questions? Well, this is an information item that requires no formal action from the council. So seeing no further comments, we will move to the next item. And this is our final item. Our next regularly scheduled ASTAC meeting will be Tuesday, September 19, 2023. ASTAC members are also invited to attend SANDAC's 2025 Regional Plan Joint Working Group Forum next Thursday, July 27. If you have not yet RSVP for that meeting, please contact SAC to let them know your attendance status. No questions? Seeing no further items on the agenda, we are adjourned until the next ASTAC meeting. Thank you everyone for attending.